Have you ever rowed against the wind? It's difficult. It's frustrating. I think sometimes we feel like in life like we're rowing against the wind, just waiting for Jesus to walk on water to come to us, to help us, to give us a push. That's a great part of the story, but that's not what I want to focus on this morning. I want to focus on actually Paul's letter to the Ephesians and what he writes. Paul is helping the Ephesian Christians understand the love of Christ, understand the love of God. Now, I think it's important for us to remember the times where we try to explain our love. Sometimes when we meet that perfect person and we are falling in love and we're talking about marriage or that kind of thing, we start saying things like, well, I love you more. And then, you ever done that? Well, no, I love you more. Or, well, I love you the most. Or, I think Michelle was serious when I told her, I love you more than pizza. But we work for ways to say how much we love one another, right? Because just saying I love you sometimes seems insufficient. It's not enough. We want to say more. I love you so much. Now, whenever I hold Caroline, I try and get her to sleep and sing to her. I just make up all kinds of crazy things to say to her. And it helps me anyway feel like I'm saying more than just I love you. And what I love in this letter is Paul is writing about, he says, I pray that you can comprehend the depth, the width, the height, and the length of Christ's love. Paul, I just pray that you can learn to measure it, that you can see it, that this love becomes real for you. And I think if Paul would say anything to us today, he'd say the same thing. I pray that you can understand the depth of God's love. I think, well, how can we understand how deep God's love really goes? Is there any example that we know of to understand how deep God's love goes? And I wonder if you've ever heard this story. There was this young man about 30 years old who grew up in a country where Christianity was illegal. And he was what you would call a religious extremist. And his mission in life was to find Christians and have them killed or arrested. As a matter of fact, he went to the religious leaders in his country and said, please give me permission to hunt Christians, and I will make it my life's work. It's all I'll focus on for the rest of my life. I will hunt Christians. Please give me permission to do that. And they did. And he did. Until he encountered Jesus one day on the road to Damascus. And Jesus said, Paul, why are you persecuting me? Paul, why are you doing this? And from then on, the Apostle Paul went to work for Jesus. The Apostle Paul started churches. The Apostle Paul wrote half of the New Testament. Paul switched. He changed. He was transformed by the power of God. Because God's love is deep enough to love his enemy, to forgive his enemy, to change his enemy, and to use his enemy for his own good. That's pretty deep. How wide is God's love? I love the story of the feeding of the 5,000, especially in John, because John tells us that it happened at the time of Passover, which means there were millions of Jews traveling towards Jerusalem as a pilgrim to be there for Passover. And so you imagine this crowd of 5,000 who are following Jesus because some might believe that he's the Son of God. Some might have heard that he's healing the sick. Others might just be wanting to see something interesting on their travels. And so Jesus sees this crowd of 5,000 and he says, we're going to feed them. All of them. Notice it doesn't say, we're going to feed the ones that believe in me. No, we're going to provide a meal for everybody. Because God's love provides for everybody. Every time I drive past a farm and see crops growing, and I think, that's God right there, creating, in action, providing for people from the soil, using the sunlight and water. God provides for everybody the same. Whether you believe or you don't believe, or whether you're God's enemy, you still get the sunlight that God has created. You still get to breathe the oxygen that God has created. You still get to drink the water that God has created. God's love is wide enough to provide for everybody. But how long is God's love? When I hear the word how long, I think of, maybe it's because I grew up in Michigan. And when someone said, how far is it somewhere, we always said it was so many hours instead of miles. And I think that's that way in Texas. How far is it to El Paso? 10 hours? Depending on how fast you're driving. So how long is Christ's love? Well, it's eternal. It's forever. It doesn't stop. But that's hard for me to understand. It's hard for me to comprehend. So I think to myself, well, what are things that I'm worried about in the future? What are things you're worried about in the future? What are things that you're uncertain about? When we think about the climate, some people are worried about that. The economy, some people are worried about that. The election, some people are worried about that. What country has what weapon, some people are worried about that. What about the church? What about abiding grace? Some of you are going to retire and move away. Some of you are going to move because you're transferred and relocated with jobs. I'm worried about that. That's the hardest part of my job, saying goodbye to somebody. What about the church overall? People say the church is changing. Some people are worried about that. But I always ask myself, if that happens, do we still have the love of Christ? Yes. Will Christ still love us if? Yes. And as long as Christ loves us, we have somewhere to start. We have a common ground to begin a conversation. And everything else, well, there's a lot of stuff to worry about, and we shouldn't bury our head in the sand. But at the same time, if we have the love of Christ, we have everything we need. And there is never a point in the future where God will stop loving you. And that's important to hear. The love of Christ is eternal. But how high does it go? How high does the love of Christ go? I think it goes about 12 to 15 feet. I Googled it. Because when the Romans crucified people, they wanted them above everyone else. So that everyone could see the person being crucified, and they could see that Rome was strong and was not going to put up with lawbreakers. But when the Romans crucified Jesus and put him on a cross in front of everybody, naked, they thought they were showing Roman strength. And in reality, what they were showing the world was God's love. And all who walked by that day saw firsthand what God looked like when God was dying. And when they said, why? Because he loves you. Because he loves us. The love of God is big enough for me and big enough for you. And as I've explained it today, I hope I've explained it in a way that makes it seem even bigger than you've imagined. But the reality is, it's bigger than we could ever imagine. And that's good news. Because it's not what we can do to earn God's love. It's simply God loves you because God loves you. And there is nothing you can do about it. Amen.